Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Thunder's Airsoft. Today we're going to take a look at the Ics Komodo Sbr with the S3 trigger system. Okay, so here it is. This is the box. I have already opened this and played with the gun. I do have a gameplay video actually up currently on my channel. So if you want to see how this performs and how it plays straight out of the box, I do have a video up on that already, and it does perform. Let me just tell you that. So it is a standard box. It is kind of halfway open right now, but it's pretty much what you're looking at. Nice little carrying handle, all their standard little markings. And then of course right here on this side of it, you can tell that it is the S3 trigger system, self-diagnostic shooting system. So when you open it up, you are going to get some standard information, a little packet of what other goodies ICS has. Actually pretty cool stuff on here. After opening this, there's a lot of guns that I'm actually interested in. It's pretty cool. You get a little breakdown sheet that shows you some stuff about how the gun gets disassembled, as well as some trigger information for that diagnostic system and how to actually operate it, what the lights mean, the different functions that it's actually capable of. Now they do give you a little foam insert in here just to kind of protect the gun, but it is really just sitting in there in a plastic tray. Now it is a nice little setup. I put obviously the gun back in there, and I do have my little zoom cam mount currently on there from playing actually. You do get one high cap mag with the gun. It is, I believe, 300 rounds, has a little window. I do have some BBs in there. I don't want the spring, but it is actually a really good quality, has a nice solid feel to it, and something that you may not realize straight out of the box or even think of, but one thing that I did notice with this is that not only does it feed very well, but it's actually relatively quiet when compared to most mags. Now I've used some VFC, the QRS mags, and those are very good quality as well for around the same price, but when this thing is fully loaded, even though it's a high cap, for some reason it doesn't make very much noise at all. And on top of that, even the winding, I don't know if the camera will even pick this up, but even winding it, that is one of the quietest winding wheels I've ever heard on a high cap mag. It's even cranking down on it. It's yeah. On top of that, you are going to get 3 rail segments for your, this actually key mod rail in between the, what is already there as far as RIS or Picatinny rails. You get a couple of spare fuses. I believe these are 25 amps. From what I've seen, they were coming with 20 amp automatically in the gun, an extra 20 amp, and then an extra 30 amp. But this gun has been out for a while now, and they've gone over to just 25 in the gun and 2 25 spare fuses as well. On top of that, you do get your barrel tool. Comes with that. That's a pretty cool little feature. And as standard, your unjamming rod. Now, I actually did buy an Avalon for about $60, $70 cheaper than this gun, and I'll be doing a review and some gameplay video on that as well. Little fact here. Did not come with an unjamming rod, which is actually really surprising, and I didn't have one, a spare one lying around. Most of them I either lent them out and they never come back, or breaking or just losing them in general. So good thing to have. Always clean your barrel. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice more than likely when you're pulling this gun out of the box is going to be the weight of it itself. I believe it's around closer to 7 pounds, which is about the weight of like most standard carbine-sized rifles or carbine-sized rifles. Now, this being the SBR, it is the shortest of the group. They really went heavy with advertising the carbine and the DMR version of this gun. The SBR, there's not a lot of content on it. Now, in its shape and form. It is really maneuverable. It feels really solid in hand. Just an overall great feeling gun. Most of the weight is centralized towards the rear, so where the gearbox is and the motor. You don't get any of that hanging off the end sort of weight that you can get with rifle systems with huge rails attached to them and whatnot. The overall just fit and finish of the gun is really, really high quality. Feels superb. Now, the one thing that I did notice with this gun, as far as any sort of play or rattles or anything like that, if you can hear that, and I don't know if bigger body pins would fix this issue, but the top receiver has, you hear that? The slightest amount of movement in it. Not a big deal, nothing you'll really notice, nothing that's really gonna bug you or anything like that while you're out and playing. The overall design of the gun, of the MARS rifle itself, is based off of the AR platform, but ICS wanted to go ahead and kind of advance that, take it to their own little foreseeable future of what the platform may actually become. So there are slight changes. There's no functioning forward assist on this. However, it does actually have a functioning forward assist on basically releasing the spring tension when you go into safety. So going from semi or full and the piston is halfway racked back, when you go into safety, you will audibly hear and feel the spring tension releasing as the anti-reversal latch is attached to the actual selector switch itself and will release that tension for you. So that's a cool feature. If you guys don't know, leaving your spring under tension for an extended period of time will over time go ahead and reduce the FPS that you're seeing. It'll actually weaken the spring inside of the gun. So that's always a cool little feature. The MARS name itself stands for Modern Assault Rifle System, MARS, MARS. So that is actually engraved on the side of it. It's really good quality, looks fantastic. On the other side, this I don't like so much, but they did go ahead and engrave it with, what does it say? Airsoft electric gun, manufactured by ICS Taiwan ROC. That's fine. It's cool. I kind of wish it wasn't there, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. Now, they do have like this stamped piece of metal with stamped in CXP. That's really good looking on the gun itself. You do have your trademark of ICS Airsoft on the grip. The gun itself is all metal except for the sights, the actual pistol grip, and then the stock itself. The buffer tube and everything else is all metal. The flash hider is also plastic or polymer. It is 14 millimeter negative or counterclockwise threaded. It does have a little grub screw in there, and you should be able to go ahead and take that off and replace it with whatever you like, suppressor, an elongated barrel. I am planning on doing a build with this gun, so if you're interested, I am going to be going for a better air seal and to try and make the gun quieter overall. And then I am going to be putting some high-speed gears in here. Now, where I play at, we don't go full auto, we do semi-auto only. And with this having the electronic trigger system in there, it is very responsive. It feels really good. With it being electronic, there's no audible reset. But I'm going to be going for just snappier single fire, just able to go ahead and put more shots out in succession, in quick succession at that. Now, from front to back, the rail system, this is designed based off of, from what I've seen, it's supposed to be like modeled after a Komodo opening up its mouth. So that's where the name Komodo came from on this particular rifle. It does have some Picatinny rails on the front portions of the gun. That's where the top side is mounted to, and on the sides. However, it is a key mod rail system in between. Now, earlier when I opened up the box, I did mention that you get 3 rail segments. You get a smaller one, a medium, and then a long. And what I like that they did with the rail system is the fact that it is flat on the in-between portions where it is key mod, and then it rises up about a 40-degree angle or so, slowly rises back up to get to the rest of the RIS system. Now, even the actual RIS rails that they give you match that curvature. So when you line it up, it actually looks like one fluid piece of railing. And so that's a pretty cool feature that they did go ahead and put in there. Moving on back, you do have your ambidextrous mag release. I've noticed that this one on the left-hand side of the rifle does actually apply more pressure to releasing magazines. One instance of that is with these QRS mags here. I did notice that they are a bit of a tight fit going in, and so they will actually physically stop. And you can either jam it in there, which is obviously not recommended, or if you just release the mag, well, if you push the mag release, it will allow for the magazine to actually go into the gun. Once it's in there, there's a little bit of forward play. There's absolutely no side to side. And these mags do feed really well in this gun. I would still recommend the ICS magazines that it actually comes with, as they feed phenomenal mag release. There's no issues. It just fits and it works. And they're actually really quiet mags. Now, to even get this thing out, when pushing that, it doesn't come out. What I was mentioning earlier, with the extra pressure on this side, it will actually release. And I think I have some BBs in there. Yep, sure did. But now it comes out. So mag fitment can be a little bit picky. I'm foreseeing that. The bolt catch. The bolt catch, you have to actually hold it back to actually have it stay back. The actual bolt release is non-functioning, obviously, because it doesn't rack back. The hop-up unit itself is a rotary style hop-up. It's really nice, really notchy on the actual rotary part of it. So it's really easy to, even with gloves, get in there and make an adjustment. The back portion of the gun, you have two sling mounts attached to the buffer tube, full metal, ICS Airsoft, again engraved in there. Looks pretty cool. The stock, now it's 5-way positional, I believe, and it actually does come with a rubber grommet. What this allows for you to do is, if you have a battery that is longer than the buffer tube, or even if it's inset, you don't want to crush those wires or the fuse that's back there, you can actually install this so that the gun will not fully close like that. So once you have this installed, and you can use these holes where normally this would slide in and click into place like that, you can actually decide where you want that to stop to protect anything from pinching or clipping a wire or anything like that. Now it will not go beyond that. So that's a pretty cool little touch. It's actually honestly easy to do. I don't know why more people aren't doing that with their rifles with an adjustable stock. That will probably be something that does happen, or at least I hope it does, because that's actually kind of something that's almost like not an afterthought, but just something that people overlook. Now, internal wise, this gun does perform extremely well. It feels rock solid when you're shooting it. Everything feels just internally like the gun is just working smoothly, like it's intended to. The barrel on the inside of this, and I'm going to crack it open here in a second, feels like aluminum, and I'll show you guys that. The gun does come with the ICS standard split gearbox. This, however, for the MARS line, did come with version 2, so they made some updates. If you've used ICS in the past, they have made some adjustments to their gearboxes. Still feels rock solid. I've never had an issue with ICS or their gearboxes. I've had really good luck with them. I've heard some people with horror stories about them, but I've always been a fan of the brand. Now, it does include the quick spring change system in these gearboxes now. So changing out a spring, going from the 420 or so that it normally shoots out of the box, you can throw a spring in there in about 2 or 3 minutes flat, and that's not a joke. You don't have to remove the gearbox or anything like that. Just simply push this pin out, crack it in half, and you have your whole upper right there with a quick change spring system. So, speaking of, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So let's go ahead and pop this body pin out. There we go. Then the gun will just crack into our chip. There we go. A little bit of pressure. It's a good fit. It's a tight fit. Let's go ahead and this is what I'm talking about. So all of your gears and everything, this is your lower half of the box, are right there visibly. They do grease it up. You can see that possibly. Has a little bit of excess in my opinion, but it's fine. This particular model of the gun is the S3 version, so it is running a premium price of $450, and what you're getting with that over the base model of the $380 one is essentially the same gun, except now you have an electronic trigger system, MOSFET, and the self-diagnostic system. Now what that allows for you to do is run a check on your MOSFETs, make sure that they're operating correctly, your electronic trigger system, again, make sure it's operating correctly, and it'll even cycle through the gears to make sure that everything is fit and good to go. That's something that's cool that I'm interested in using for like builds, so that I don't have to fully cycle the gun or even have it fully pull a piston back or anything like that. Once I put the gears and working on the build that I'm going to be making, I can actually just leave it like this and then cycle everything and make sure everything's good to go. Now, to the spring change. This is the upper half of the gearbox. Now, all of these MARS rifles do come electronic blowback. So, every time you shoot, this is going to go ahead and rack back. Gives you a little bit of a feel. Nothing that's going to knock it back into your shoulder or anything drastic like that. It feels pretty good. Never been the biggest fan of electronic blowbacks, but they did do it right with this gun. It does feel more, what's the word? It feels a little bit more impacting than most. I don't know if it's the tension of the spring that they have on there, because it does go back pretty good, or what they did, but it feels pretty nice. That is the quick change spring system. So all you would do is put an Allen in there, you turn it, normally it's about a 90-degree turn, and the whole spring will come out the back. Throw a new spring in, put that in there, put your charging handle back on the rifle, slide it back in, boom, you're shooting at whatever feet per second you just threw a spring in there for. Now, oops, the hop up and barrel, hop up is fantastic. I'm shooting 32s out of this gun, launching them as far as I can imagine, because this will overhop them and make them shoot up into the air a good 50-60 feet, and you'll lose track of the BB. Now, the barrel, it's extremely light. That's why I'm under the impression that it is aluminum. The crowning on it, it does have a crowning on the barrel. It's all right. I will be more than likely upgrading this and swapping it out for something like a steel barrel. Oh my gosh, a Prometheus barrel. That's the word that I'm thinking of. I'm actually going to put a 300mm Prometheus barrel on this guy. Still going to stick with the metal hop-up, the rotary style wheel, bucking, and probably the nub too, because it's working just fantastic. There's no need to change anything on there, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, that's how quick you can break this guy down, change out your spring system, and go play some CQB if that's what you're doing for the day. So that's always nice, and this is something that's different because normally with even a quick change spring system in your M4, you're still having to take out the entire gearbox. So yeah, once you get in there to changing the spring, it's a lot easier than having to disassemble the whole thing and crush it all together and get it back in there to fit properly, which has never been like a big deal in my opinion, but this is so much more convenient. It's ridiculous. As far as battery space goes, if I can get this guy back, oh, the pin, sorry about that. There we go. As far as battery space goes, you are sticking your battery in the buffer tube. So I run an 11.1 Tenergy 20C LiPo, and I think it's a 1200 mAh. It fits in there just fine, and I've used smaller 11.1s than that, basically any stick type lipo is going to go ahead and work with this, and you can stick it down in that buffer tube. And then of course you have that adjustment in case you're worried about crushing it. If you're trying to run something that's actually hanging out there, it does go back really far. So, and then of course you can stop it and prevent that with that little grommet there. Overall, this is a premium gun with a premium price attached to it. In my opinion, it is worth the money. It feels solid, shoots just great, and if you want to see it shoot or see it perform, I don't normally do shooting tests or a chrono. I'm waiting on a chrono, but you can check out my gameplay video. I played a whole day with this thing. It was just absolutely fantastic, and just because of the size and the weight of it, transitioning to a sidearm or just running this all day, it just feels fantastic with all the weight being centralized in the rear, like I mentioned earlier. It's actually comfortable, and trust me when I say it hops 32s like crazy. You will be able to reach out and get people with rifles that are twice the size of it, as long as you know what you're doing. If you're interested, I will be making a build video, as I mentioned, have all the parts and everything coming in, and it's going to be exciting to see how this thing performs afterwards. So I will have that video and then another gameplay video after the fact, after the build, and we'll test it out then. Thank you guys. Alright everybody, that brings us to the end of this review video on that Ics Sbr Komodo. If you like that video, please drop a like and consider subscribing. I will have some more content, build videos coming up. And remember, get outside and bring some thunder.